the Democrats, for all they want to talk about, oh my God, everything, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Everything is a threat to democracy. They can't be bothered to pass an election integrity and security bill. They campaign on, oh, I'm going to cut spending. We're going to do this. We're going to put government in check. And then what do? Absolutely nothing.
What we need is a new president. We need Donald Trump. And then he has promised to put some pretty smart people in charge of sort of reinventing and making more efficient the federal government. And that will then be the game changers. We can lead the way. And he's saying he wants to do it so he can actually claim a mandate should he win. And if he doesn't, it's just going to be more of the same.
The Biden-Harris administration has been able to say for the past few months, well, inflation's been below 3.5%. Things are getting better. We're recovering the economy. If the Fed continues to cut rates, if they do another rate cut before the election, I think they're going to be actually in big trouble because those numbers are going to start creeping up again.
All right, guys, we are almost into the full final stretch, 47 days to go. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's Road to 270. A lot of great feedback. I'd love to know what you think about it. We're going to be doing this more and more. Great panel discussion headed your way. Glenn Beck is coming tomorrow. Just so much. I don't even know if we have enough time. We're going to have to do a second version of the show. It's getting too much. But this is why I love political season. I want to tell you real quick, though, a lot of unexpected things have happened along the way, as you guys have known. 2 assassination attempts, a presidential candidate pushed out of the way. No one would have expected that. Same thing goes for your preparation at home. You never know when the unexpected is going to happen. That's why I have a Patriot Power Generator 2000X in my house, and you can have one too if you go to 4patriots.com/Spicer. Look, if the power goes out, it could be for an hour, a day, a month. Are you ready? Are you ready to take care of yourself, your family? That's why I have one. I would suggest that you do the same now. Don't wait. These things always sell out. I used to have a gas one. You have to worry about filling it up, whether or not the credit card machine works, whether the gas station is open. The Patriot Power Generator 2000X works entirely off a solar panel that comes with it, and it's powerful enough to take care of the biggest things in your house, your refrigerator, computers, tablets, all the stuff that the kids use, and we know they use a lot of stuff. If you have a parent or someone that has a medical device, that's important too. It's portable. You can bring it in your house because there's no gas, there's no smells, there's no loud noises. You can bring it over to a friend's house and be the savior. You know what I mean? That the big winner. So it takes care of everything. I love the peace of mind that it gives me. Go to 4patriots.com/Spicer. Get your Patriot Power Generator right now. Listen, as I said, the Teamsters didn't endorse a Democrat yesterday. First time since 1996. I'm going to talk about this, the panel. This is a big win for Donald Trump. The media can't stand that he actually said that yesterday, but I'm going to explain why and see if the panel makes it. But also, there's another twist on this. I want to talk about endorsements overall. We kind of mock the Taylor Swift stuff. New data out on this. Unbelievable, because that's how we are in America right now. We actually poll this kind of stuff. But I was shocked at the Taylor Swift data that came out of the poll. Break this down with the panel in just a sec. The House, shocker, is up against another deadline to fund the government. Speaker Johnson fell short of the votes he needs. Does he have a plan B? I don't know. I don't think so. We'll talk about what hill the House should die on, the House Republicans, that much. As we get closer to the election, how might that affect it? And here's my big question that I want the panel to weigh in on. What are we missing? What issue are we not talking about that we should be talking about? And of course, it's Thursday, so winners and losers are going to be there. Before I get to all that, we are going to go ad-free for the rest of the show, but I want to tell you about a great guy. You know him if you've listened to the show a lot, Leo Grillo from Delta Rescue. He is amazing what he has done. As a dog lover, as someone that doesn't eat dogs, cats, I don't eat them. I don't eat geese. I don't grill them. I don't even, but that's why I love the work of Delta Rescue. If you go to deltarescue.org, you can check out all of the amazing work that they're doing. He has created this no-kill sanctuary for life. They bring dogs, cats, horses, birds, whatever. If you go check out the videos there, you'll see what I mean. Like, the history and evolution of this place has been unreal. It relies entirely on our donations, though. So if you're an animal lover of any sort, if you don't eat cats and dogs, then go to deltarescue.org, make a contribution, see if you can help this. But more importantly, at the top, you'll see this little estate planning guide. Think about whether or not you could make Delta Rescue part of your legacy to keep this mission that Leo has started, an enduring one for generations to come. I appreciate your consideration. Please go to deltarescue.org. Just check out the work you're doing, and I think you'll be as compelled as I am to want to support them. All right, without further ado, I want to bring in the amazing panel that we have today. Sarah Gonzalez, the host of Unfiltered on the Blaze, Amber Duke, the host of The Hill Rising, and a last-minute substitution, Larry O'Connor, the host of O'Connor and probably someone else, Patrice Onwuka. It's a holding name, O'Connor and Company for now, WMAL. They're still auditioning folks, just like The Voice or America's Got Talent. If you're interested, let me know, and it'll probably be you and O'Connor at some point. They're gonna flip. They're willing to do anything to get someone in their equality. Without further ado, I want to bring the panel in.
To join
Guys,
you,
good to see you. As part of Larry's work release program, he's here on the show. Good behavior. He's been away. He says vacation. We all know what that means. Code word. But guys, I want to welcome you all in. And this Teamsters thing yesterday, they haven't endorsed a Democrat since 1996. I know the media didn't want to play it up big. Trump commented on it yesterday, Larry. I'm sorry. I've run races for 30 years. The Democrat not getting a big endorsement, especially when you've got Michigan as a battleground state, is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's a blow to Kamala Harris as much as they might not want to admit it.
It's a huge deal. And it's also a huge deal in Pennsylvania, where those Teamsters are utilized for lugging the rigs back and forth for fracking and energy, which is really continues to be the underlying issue in that state, despite Kamala Harris's attempts to lie about it. It was a great, great example of union leadership finally incapable of denying the will of their membership. Now, they were still gutless. If they really wanted to reflect their membership and lead the way for the Teamsters, they would have endorsed Donald Trump. But it's sort of irrelevant at this point because the rank and file, they're on Team MAGA right now. And this is a huge repudiation for Kamala Harris. And by the way, hidden subtext here, Joe Biden would have gotten that endorsement.
Oh, yeah.
He talks their language, even though he's BSing as well, and he has nothing in common with these blue-collar workers. He would still play the game that Kamala Harris is incapable of playing. And I bet in the back of his mind, Joe, that's his name. Sort of forget about him now. Joe and Jill are actually grinning to each other and smiling and laughing about Kamala Harris's ineptitude here.
Amber, a lot of people on our side expressed the sentiment of what Larry did. Like the Sean O'Brien, the leadership of the Teamsters, released that poll. They didn't have to. They released a poll showing that Donald Trump got the majority of their support. Some people on our side are like, okay, then I'm trying to think of how to do this PG wise. Man up, and give the endorsement to the guy that your rank and file want. I kind of looked at this, and I mean, maybe I'm just I've done this for too long, but I was like, dude, not giving an endorsement is a big slap in the. I mean, that's the equivalent of giving it to the Republican, and I think that they on the Dem side count on it so much that them not getting it. I never saw a world in which they endorsed a Republican, put it that way. And a non-endorsement, in my opinion, is basically as close as a Republican's ever going to get. And so I take that as the win.
Agreed. And that's how Trump and his team are treating it, which is exactly right. And there's been a growing chasm, as Larry was talking about, between union leadership and the rank and file members for a long time. But it became very evident in 2016 with the rise of Donald Trump. I remember my dad coming home with his UA magazine, and there was a big profile piece on Hillary Clinton right on the front. And he threw it in the trash and he said, I'm done with these people. I'm voting for Trump. And I think that's a sentiment that's reflected among a lot of the people that he worked with. And to see this poll come out was just further indictment of the fact that the union leadership has been growing further and further away from their membership. And even in that statement that they put out with the poll, they suggested that if there had been a majority vote in favor of Kamala, that they would have endorsed her. But in order for them to endorse Trump, it needed to be unanimous. So they were operating under two different standards for which candidate they would endorse.
Totally glad you brought that up. I saw that and it was just like, if some people like Kamala Harris, we'll give it to her. But if it's not unanimous for Trump, we can't give it to him. And I'm like, wait a second. That's like, if you don't get all the questions right on the test, you get an F. If you get one wrong, you get an A minus. And it's like, wait a second. Those are two different grading systems. I was literally like, how does that pass the smell test? That's like one had a, like that, talk about grading on a curve. Sarah Gonzalez, I want to ask you this though. And this is going to segue into, like, just to be transparent here, I have a bigger question to say, but does it matter? I mean, look, the union members didn't really care. It was 58% they were going to support Trump anyway. Did they care that the leadership was going to do this? I mean, I just don't know these endorsements that we talk about. I'm not really sure. Like, I don't really care who the Washington Post endorses or any pop star or something like that. Maybe the left cares more than we do, and that's why they do matter. But I was like, why do we really care?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you that it doesn't matter to the rank and file members who are already going to vote for Donald Trump. But I would say that it does matter. It is significant to show, just we're at this point in American history where the Democrats are just not the party of the working class anymore. They can't claim that they are. We've known this for a while, right? But they have been able to claim for so long that they are the party of the working class. They're the party of the labor unions. And, while we've seen that their policies have proven differently, they've still been able to claim that because they've had the labor union support. And so I think that this is it's a really significant time because no longer can they say that labor unions support the Democrats' policies. To your point, Larry, I do think that Joe Biden would have gotten it. It still just goes to show you, they switched to Kamala thinking she would help with all of these demographics, all of these different groups. This is one group that obviously she was never going to help with. So I take this as a win. Sean, I don't think that it matters to the rank and file members. They were already going to vote for Trump, but it is significant, in America to look and see, the Democrats have already lost. The Democrats have lost the labor unions. That's a pretty big deal.
Could I add to what Sarah just said there, Sean? Because wasn't it remarkable to see within like an hour of the Teamsters deciding not to endorse Kamala Harris, her campaign put out a press release saying, yeah, but we did get the endorsement of 100 former Republican national security experts, and they're still celebrating Dick Cheney. I mean, what world are we living in right now where they're fine losing the Teamsters, but they're happy to have Cheney?
3 points on this. One, on the unions, I just think it has to get made. They are, to Sarah's point, they're losing the actual non-public unions. What I mean by that is if you go look at the ones that represent government and public teachers and all that, like those are still with the Democrats, but the ones where they actually make a private sector wage at a company, auto workers, pipe fitters, those guys, they're not with the Democrats anymore. Those are the working men and women.
Unions that rely on the free market.
Right.
So
number two, that letter, and I didn't even have this. I was laughing about how many people are on that. Like, with all due respect, like a bunch of those people on that list have hated Trump for 5 years, and suddenly we care. And the broader thing, and I don't know if this was just me, but I was like, after last cycle, do you really want to put out a list of national security experts trying to denounce something? I mean, I think you guys showed that when it comes to like laptops and things, you don't have a strong record.
We need the Venn diagram of this list and the Hunter Biden laptop list.
It was, and by the way,
there were also
like,
a lot of interns on the list that they sent out.
I'm glad you said that. I was like, who is this person? I think the thing that I thought was interesting is it was the New York Times wrote the story. And Amber, you're right. It was like, I'm reading these names and I'm like, it was like a fellow in the office of the assistant secretary for the person who represents interns. And I'm like, this is like, you guys are so desperate for stories against
Rumsberg's
Trump.
latte boy was on that.
Cut lawn for Donald Rumsfeld, national security expert. All right. I promised that this was going to be a segue. And it is. And this is the thing that I found fascinating. Last week, we talked a little bit about this Taylor Swift endorsement. Okay. Cards on the table. I don't think endorsements matter that much, but she was registering people to vote. There's no question about that. Okay. And my guess is that if you're registering to vote because Taylor Swift told you to register to vote, you're not smart enough to vote Republican. That's my 2 cents on this. But here's the poll that came out this morning that I think is fascinating. She is she has a favorable rating by 70% of Democrats. No shock there. Here's where it gets interesting. 41% of independents like her, right? It was like 32 don't. That's not really strong. And then here's the thing. 2360 Republicans, 23% Republicans have a favorable view of her. 60% don't. Now, I got to think that this doesn't have much to do with the music. There was no follow. Do you have a favorable and unfavorable view of Taylor Swift? I was shocked by this. I don't really care whether she makes an endorsement or not. I don't think that much about her, to be honest with you. I don't like her for other reasons, but I was actually shocked. And I think to myself, wow, does this send a signal? Like, the thing that I don't think that Taylor Swift fully appreciated is that, to me, says, if you're her business manager, you walk in and said, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. I hope you feel good about endorsing Kamala Harris. Here's what you just cost yourself. And I mean, am I wrong in this?
Well, I don't think she cares.
I don't think so, Sean. I mean, listen, first of all,
Yeah.
Taylor Swift joins the ranks of all the other elitist billionaires who are lining up with the Democrats and Kamala Harris. But the real story with regard to celebrity endorsements, if they matter at all, is that if you compare Donald Trump right now versus 8 years ago, he's got way more celebrities who are out of the closet and celebrating him and actually standing side by side with him. Now, they're not the Taylor Swift types, but there are some from Hollywood. There are some in the athletic world, music industry types who have actually appeared with him at his rallies. They didn't do that 8 years ago. And Hillary Clinton got 98 out of the top 100 newspapers to endorse her, and that mattered nothing either. If anything, Donald Trump is actually further along with these kind of endorsements now than he was 8 years ago because the stigma has been removed, or much of the stigma has been removed.
I think there's a couple of things that do matter when it comes to celebrity endorsements, and it's things like credibility, authenticity, and is this a surprise, right? Like when Taylor Swift came out and endorsed Democrats during the 2018 midterms, people were kind of surprised by it, but she didn't have the credibility to be an authoritative voice on who people should vote for. So it didn't move the needle, right? Marsha Blackburn still won that Senate race against Phil Bredesen. But when Oprah came out and endorsed Obama, that was a huge cultural shift because she had been seen as this expert voice on her talk show for a long time and mostly apolitical. So when celebrities who are already assumed to be liberal endorse the Democrat, it doesn't shake up the race at all because people are already expecting it.
Right.
Yeah, and I would just add to that. I mean, I do think that there's a difference too in, people like us, we work in this environment, we work in this industry. This is, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I would assume, one of your passions is following this type of thing. It isn't the same for celebrities. I mean, I know, you remember the shut up and dribble with, who was it, LeBron James. But I mean, there is something to be said for, it's a pretty bad business decision to wade into, Sean, to your point, to wade into all of this when we're so tribalistic in this country, we're so divided in this country, you lose half your fan base. I mean, I guess when you're as rich and popular as Taylor Swift, you don't care if you lose half your fan base, but I do think that it's kind of a dumb business decision because you could just stay out of it and then everyone likes you. Instead, she chose not to. I mean, that's her choice, I guess. I don't agree with it, but I can't say what I would do if I were Taylor Swift with millions and millions of dollars.
But there's something I like millions and billions of dollars. And if someone came to me and said, "Hey, Sean, just so you know, I get that you like this person, but you're costing yourself billions of dollars that you could do other good things with. You could build houses, or like if you really want to do greater good, what has more impact? You using your wealth to do something, or you saying something that makes you feel good?"
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Amber.
She's being driven, though, by a very radical...
I was going to say, Taylor Swift is the 12th man for the Kansas City Chiefs. So keeping it in that ballpark, I think more important than Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala Harris, which everyone expected, was Patrick Mahomes, the superstar MVP, star quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, when pressed on politics, said, yeah, you know what? I've got a lot of friends who vote that way. I got a lot of good friends who vote that way. It doesn't impact me. I love them for who they are, and I stay out of politics. I think that actually resonates even more.
I agree. Like you know what? I like music and sports where I don't go and get politics fed in my face. And I liked the way that Patrick handled that. I will say this, Larry, and I'm glad you brought this up because I feel like that we've gotten to a point now and they just do it one way, right? They wanted Patrick Mahomes to say Trump because of his wife, Brittany. And then they wanted to pounce on him and cancel him and deplatform him. They were just ready to say something. He handled it excellent. But it sucks that Taylor Swift and these folks on the left can be like, I'm going to wear a Biden Taylor Harris or a Harris, whoever her person is now, Waltz, hat. And I'm going to be proud of it. But if you actually support, you saw Brittany Mahomes, his wife had to unlike an Instagram post because she faced such vitriol. Like it's not both ways.
No.
And that's what sucks, is that this is like, if you want to come out for Harris because she's so awesome, you get cheered in the media and the Today Show and everyone else says this is amazing and you get liked and whatever. But if you were to come out and say, I like Donald Trump, you're screwed. And that's that. Go ahead, Amber.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I actually have a friend who, I won't say his name because I don't know that he wants this to be public, but he's been in the music industry for like 25, 30 years. And his band actually got in hot water because they didn't post a Black Lives Matter black square. I mean, that's where we're at in this country. This was obviously back in 2020. No, this is not.
Is it
Sting? I think that's exactly the calculation that Taylor Swift is making, right? She is being driven by her young female progressive fan base that is very, very vocal on these issues. And she has decided that it's better to appease them than to worry about losing some Republicans, because Republicans historically are not very good at boycotts anyway. And just anecdotally, I had a softball game last week, an intramural softball game, and some members of my team were wearing MAGA hats. And I kid you not, there was someone in the stands who was rooting against us because of this, saying that we were making political statements while wearing a Harris Waltz hat.
Wow.
No.
Let me shout out, because I used to work in the entertainment business. This whole Taylor Swift thing, the key sort of secret to all of this is she told you why she's supporting them, because of LGBTQ issues, because of Tim Walz's Minnesota gay rights platform. This has everything to do with the army of men who are hired to make Taylor Swift look good. Her makeup people, her hair people, her wardrobe people. She doesn't want to get on their bad side. And I mean, my hunch is the majority
based
of them
on her Grammys look, she already is.
Larry, I'm interested that you said that, because my limited experience in Hollywood is that a lot of those worker bee types are actually on our team. It's the management types who think that they're speaking for everybody. I actually found...
Oh, you're right. In the makeup room, they all sort of have to speak in hushed tones. Right. You're right.
But it's the management that's like, if you really want to be a leader, you'll come out for all this.
Yeah.
And the agents and whatever else, they don't, that's the disconnect there. I will say this. I do find it fascinating that how this is all playing out. I don't think any of it matters. I don't really think anyone's going, oh, well, Taylor Swift actually said to do this, so I'm going to do it. But here's the question, just for fun, because Oprah's doing an event today. Amber name checked her. She's actually doing an event with her. Okay. Taylor Swift just posted that thing on Instagram and said, go vote. She's back in the States, as I understand it, in the next couple of weeks. I don't know, right? Here's my question for you guys. It's one thing to post that on Instagram, to check a box and to say, I made my piece. I kept all the management type people happy. I can say I supported LGBTQ, C3PO stuff. Does she show up at an event with Kamala Harris and take it a step further, Sarah Gonzalez?
I don't think so.
Larry?
No.
Nope, no way.
Amber?
No.
Yeah. All right, good. We're all in agreement, because I think that's when her folks said, did you get it out? It's like, it feels good, right? You yelled, you got to say your piece, you get to check your boxes, you can go out with all of your friends again. Okay, good. That's got to end now, because we're back to business, Taylor. How's that? Yeah. That's where I think it goes. All right, speaking of back to business, this is an interesting segue. Yesterday, the House did not pass this continuing resolution. Speaker Johnson says that he's got a plan B suddenly. I don't know what it is. But the bottom line is, we find ourselves in this position at the end of every September. We got to figure out how to fund the government. And they're trying to negotiate. Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? To House Republicans put the SAVE Act, which is about ensuring integrity in our elections, as part of it, even though Democrats won't support it. The idea is, hey, we'll get them on the record. Here's an interesting thing that I read, though, that I just want to sort of put this in context, because it was interesting. Bill Clinton was president the last time the four corners of congressional leadership, meaning the House and Senate Republican leader, and then the House and Senate Democratic leader, managed to do one of their most important jobs on time: fully fund every appropriations bill by the October 1st deadline. That's in the 1990s, by the way. Congress is on track to pass 0 of the appropriations bills, and there's 12 of them, for the 6th year in a row. It's not all of them. That was 96. They haven't passed any of them for the first time in 6 years. The House has passed 5 funding bills. The Senate committees have passed their versions of every appropriations bill except Homeland Security. None has received a floor vote. So I don't know, maybe I care too much about this, but I am so distraught at how dysfunctional this has gotten and how like Republicans can't get their act together. And so Sarah, I mean, do you care? Is this like, dude, no one cares? And if so, do you have a solution, or is it like just jam this stuff through?
I mean, look, not to be disrespectful, Sean, but you talk about shutting down the government, and I'm like, don't threaten me with a good time. I'm in, right? I'm just tired of the bloated bureaucracy. So
Right.
I agree with you that it's disgraceful that they can't get anything done. But at the same time, I don't blame the people for standing strong and saying we keep passing these spending bills. We keep spending more money that we
Yes.
don't have, and we have absolutely no plan to get spending in check. I'm not voting for 11 bills stuffed together at the same time. I want to vote on a clean bill. And so I can't blame them for that. I also think it's hilarious that, I mean, not really. I say that tongue in cheek, that the Democrats, for all they want to talk about, oh my God, everything, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Everything is a threat to democracy. They can't be bothered to pass an election integrity and security bill. So it's just a lot of dysfunction. I would expect nothing less from Congress, but it is really disgraceful that they can't seem to figure out. We elect them to they campaign on, oh, I'm going to cut spending. We're going to do this. We're going to put government in check. And then what do? Absolutely nothing.
You know, Larry, when we had the speaker race, whatever it was a year ago,
Which one?
Not the Johnson one, the McCarthy one. I was asking people over and over again, and they said, we just can't get to this stage again and I'm like, okay, but then you do.
Yeah.
It's like the guy who goes to the doctor says, okay, you're sick. I can get you by right now, but you got to make some lifestyle choices. You got to change these things. And they go, got it, doc. And then they walk out and they go to the all you can eat buffet and like drink a gallon of like, vodka. And they're like, okay. And we're sick. We are as a nation. I mean, this is what Sarah's saying. I just don't get it. And it's like we wait till every end of the year. You know what? Next year is going to be different. It's going to be different. We are going to cut spending. I just don't get it. And I'm like,
yeah. I don't know. I can't pick up on your Golden Corral references there, Sean, but I will say, I think you and I are the last ones in this town who actually do want to see every single department in our government go through the appropriate appropriations and budget process. John Boehner promised that in 2010 when he won the majority overwhelmingly, and of course, nothing came of it. What we need is leadership, and there's no leadership coming anywhere. I don't necessarily blame Speaker Johnson because he can't lead by only with his slim majority and by not having any control of the Senate and the White House. What we need is a new president. We need Donald Trump, and then he has promised to put some pretty smart people in charge of sort of reinventing and making more efficient the federal government. And that will then be the game changers. We can lead the way. And he's saying he wants to do it so he can actually claim a mandate should he win. And if he doesn't, it's just going to be more of the same.
You know, Amber, the one thing that I would say that's interesting about Sarah's point, I'm with you, like close the government down. For the most part, I do worry about the national security aspects of this, but
sure, of course,
mostly they're taken care of. Okay. That being said, here's the problem. Talk about like watching the movie. They shut the government down. I'm like, great. And then what do? They pay everyone back. They're like, okay, sorry that you did that. And I'm like, wait a second. So it's almost like you even the feds, all these bureaucrats are like, hey, I'll take it because they get, 2 weeks, 3 weeks off. And then they get all their money back. And don't get me wrong, if you're listening to this, and I get it, I was a young staffer at one point where this happened. And, if you make on a limited budget, it does screw with your ability to make short term. But you're getting the money back, and you get all those. I mean, there's never been in history one instance where they didn't get all their money back and no penalty. So it's actually a great little gig if you're in the federal government right now. And there are no consequences. So even shutting the government down benefits the Democrats.
Yeah, but at the same time, I would say that politically that gives some cover for Republicans for shutting down the government, because it's not like they're putting all these people out of work and they're not going to be able to pay their rent, right? That's not what's happening when the government is shut down. That's a sort of cudgel that the Democrats use against Republicans to try to make it seem like, Betty down the street is going to be starving. But I just, on a more general basis, I feel like the bar is so low. I mean, it's not even about cutting spending now at this point. It's, can we increase spending a little less? Like the assumption now is that spending's going up every single year. It is automatically going to go up, and there's seemingly nothing we can do about it. I think the expectations are just really in the gutter.
Yeah, the only time we made any inroads here was after Newt Gingrich won in '94, and he and Bill Clinton were both sort of publicly in a place where they had to reach some agreement to balance the budget. But that all started because of the will of the American people. Yep. Until the American people make a big deal out of this, there's not going to be any motivation in Washington to fix the problem.
And can I just, to Amber's point really quick, the Republicans, the Democrats they do use this opportunity to go, oh my gosh, Republicans want all these poor government workers to starve. That's so sad. Aren't they mean? But Republicans fall into that every single time. It scares them. They're worried about the optics and they're like, oh my God, no, we have to do something because they're painting us as the meanies. They fall into the trap every single time. It's just really, it's so irritating to see.
100%. I will put my old budget communications director hat back when I was on the Hill. To Amber's point, I want people to understand what Amber said. So if the budget is supposed to increase, because that's how Washington works, from say, let's say that they get $10 this year and it's supposed to increase to $15. If you only give them $13, right? So they get $3 more than they had last year. In Washington and media speak, you cut them too.
Yeah.
That's insane. But that's literally, and I used to, this is what Sarah's saying. Like, we used to go around going, this is crazy. We just gave you $3 more than you had last year, but because you wanted $5, you get to call it a $2 cut. And we would go, oh my God, we should probably get it back up to 15 because we don't want to be seen as giving it a cut. Grow up, explain this issue. And this is what blows my mind. Guys, I just, at some point, Larry, you made the point. Someone's got to lead. My favorite quote ever is, in the absence of leadership, take charge. Somebody's got to, in these 220 something Republicans, say, you know what? I'll be the guy. And that's what Gingrich did back in the day, frankly. He said, you know what? I'm not just going to wait to be speaker or minority leader at that time, because Bob Michael was the minority leader. He said, I'm just going to start doing this stuff. I'm going to go down. I'm going to lead this revolution. I'm going to start talking about issues, get attention, garner support. We need a Newt Gingrich is what we need.
And his reward was a historic mandate in that midterm election that gave Republicans the gavel for the first time in 50 years. So 54. He could say, listen, I told him we had to do this. I won, so let's do it. And that even brought Bill Clinton to the point of saying the era of big government spending is over. And well, gosh, it sounds like a long time ago, because look where we are now.
All right, we've been talking about cutting. I want to, since we're all financial experts, I was shocked yesterday. I know nothing about the Fed. Admittedly, I got a D in economics in college, and even that was generous. I was surprised yesterday that the Fed cut rates by five basis points versus 2.5. And so when I woke up this morning, I thought that this would be huge. Both candidates would be talking about it. The news would be going nuts. It wasn't as big of a story. And I thought to myself, that's interesting and telling at the same point, Sarah Gonzalez.
Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, I am also not an expert in this at all, but you're all shocked.
Blaze financial expert.
Yeah, you're all shocked. But what I can tell you is, looking back at the times that they have done something like this before, none of those times have been good, right? These are all very unstable, uncertain times that they have made this type of a move this big. So, here's the thing. I think that people aren't talking about it because we all kind of already recognize where we're at in this country. Americans have been feeling this for a while. And I think that we are so busy with all of the day-to-day, all of the burdens that we have due to the Biden-Harris regime. We can't fill up our gas tank. Our money is stretching thinner and thinner. We can barely pay our bills, that we're like, oh, cool, the Fed, great. I don't know. I'm just trying to not have a Haitian migrant come into my backyard and steal my cat, right? The Americans are so bothered by all of these other day-to-day issues that I think that this it goes right over their heads at this point, because they're already feeling the pain.
Yeah, that's part of it. I think there's also some serious economic illiteracy in our mainstream media, and they just sort of report on the Dow, and it doesn't go much further than that. I think it is going to make an impact, though, for some people. By the way, Don't worry if you don't know much about the Fed, because I assure you, after you've said that, Ron Paul was right 2000 is going to blast us with comments down below. So then they'll explain everything about the Fed and what's wrong with it. I think that part of the reason why this doesn't feel like it's got a huge impact is because interest rates have gone up so high for so long that even this 0.5 percentage point is not going to make a huge difference. But I think that there is a tell here that the fact that this came through as big as it was, Sean, and unexpectedly, this also shows a bit of the DC corruption. They're doing this to help Kamala Harris. They want to see some sort of infusion that might make a difference. The Dow Jones might have a good day today. It's up by about a percentage point right now. And they want to be able to say, see, things are better now and inflation is better. So don't worry about the economy. And it's a Band-Aid on a huge artery that is still spurting blood all over our economy.
Yes, they have to be very careful with that strategy because, yes, it's going to be slightly cheaper for people to borrow money, which makes it easier to, afford a house or whatever it is you're trying to buy. But what usually follows a rate cut is more inflation. And the Biden-Harris administration has been able to say for the past few months, well, inflation's been below 3.5%. Things are getting better. We're recovering the economy. If the Fed continues to cut rates, if they do another rate cut before the election, I think they're going to be actually in big trouble because those numbers are going to start creeping up again.
Yeah, I think the timing is interesting. To Larry's point, it was sort of like an assist, and it gives them a nice talking point. Things are moving in the right direction. Right. Things are getting better. And you go, I don't know. I kind of think it's a little late on this. All right, that reminds me. I brought this up at the beginning. Between the debate, what's happened in the last 24 hours. I mean, this has been an election cycle, no other. What issue do you guys think is not getting attention that you're either shocked by or that you wish it would? So I'll start with you, Sarah. Like, is there an issue that you're saying, I wish Trump was talking about this, or I'm surprised that this is not coming up?
Yeah, I do think that, I'll give you two things. Number one, the fact that the Biden regime has come out talking about Supreme Court reform before he leaves office. I should use reform in air quotes because we all know that, they're trying to pack the court. They've got this radical plan and nobody was asked a question about that in the ABC News debate, right? Kamala didn't have to talk about that. Nobody's really talking about that. And I just think it's kind of been swept under the rug, similarly to Joe Biden, period, because we just don't hear about him anymore, even though he is currently supposed to be in charge of the country. So that's one of them. Another one that I would say is that I think that there's just so many other issues going on that we really have not talked a lot about the transing of the children, which I think is a huge issue in this country. We are basically sterilizing an entire generation of kids. And I feel like there are just so many other, like we were talking about earlier, day-to-day issues that those are kind of being ignored. And I do hope that they start being talked about again because they're both very, very important.
Yeah. Oh, those are two good ones. Larry, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to go a little outside the box on this, Sean, because I think issues-wise, I think the Trump campaign, they're winning. If you actually look at the polls, they're doing great on the issues that matter most to the American people. And that's why Kamala Harris doesn't want to talk about issues. So if this comes down to be an election between two personality types, the elephant in the room is authenticity. Say what you will about Kamala Harris, she doesn't come across as authentic right now. She seems rehearsed, she seems scripted, she seems controlled because she is. And what you saw this week with Donald Trump in Flint, Michigan, instead of doing his traditional rally where he does his thing at the podium with his teleprompter, sitting down with Sarah Huckabee Sanders and interacting with her, responding to questions and actually having a dialogue, he's so much better in that forum, in that format.
100%.
And I understand he's going to do another one with Kristi Noem from South Dakota. This is going to be a thing that he does more and more between now and Election Day. And I think that it makes him look authentic, just like showing up on Gutfeld yesterday. He is real. He can act spontaneously. He can go off script, and he's better that way. And I think that's going to be a difference maker.
Amber,
hold on. Larry, you don't think that Kamala talking to her brothers and sisters, you better thank a union member? You don't think that's authentic?
Wait a second. Just so you know, she had a Latin accent today.
Yeah,
she did.
Man, I love
you, mommy. I love you too, mommy.
I've never seen anyone so.
Friend. I love you back.
That's not authentic?
It's authentically ridiculous. All right, Amber, before I get to your point, I want to get you to weigh in on this, but I actually do think, Larry, you touched on such a great thing. I watched Trump the other day at Moms for Liberty. I went with him, and he engaged in this discussion. And it was so cool because I said to my wife when we got back, I was like, he told this story about The Apprentice and how it came to be and how they, and I was just like, I don't know. There's something I always love.
He's a great storyteller. And he did the same thing with Gutfeld, telling a story about Tim Walz. He talked about the woman who found the would-be assassin the other day. Yeah. He's so good that
but
way.
I always like the backstory to someone. And when he was telling this story about how they went to ABC and then whatever, I was just like, it was kind of cool. Like you feel like you learn a lot about them as a person and how they explain themselves. Anyway, yep. I couldn't agree with you more. Amber, what do you think? Give me what issues do you not see as getting the due that they probably should or could?
Well, I'll give two as well, like Sarah did. I mean, the first is there's actually a local news report following Trump's rally in Tucson that suggested 20 of the attendees had possibly been the victims of some kind of chemical attack. They left the rally with burning eyes and running noses and had to seek medical care, which is really strange. No one else has reported on this besides that local Arizona station. And then second, I found myself repeatedly frustrated with the lies coming out of the Kamala campaign about abortion and IVF. I mean, just this week, they had a campaign manager say on a press call that Trump's official platform, not even talking about his platform, Project 2025, like they like to do, they were talking about Agenda 47, quote, would ban IVF and reproductive care. And they also are touting this ProPublica story, claiming that a woman died from an abortion ban in Georgia. She actually died from complications from the abortion pill. And I know that Republicans are not good at talking about this issue. They don't really know the intricacies. But if you are going to have another campaign straight up lying about your position on these issues, straight up lying about the impact of your legislation, and this is an issue that's polling at 4, 5, 6 among voters, especially among independents, then you have to learn how to talk about it.
Amen.
All right, I'm going to give you my 3, and then I want to move on to winners and losers for the week because I kind of am intrigued where we're going to end up on that. So number 1, I don't think that China has gotten the due that it deserves. It is, to me, truly a threat to our well-being here in the United States, economically and security-wise. And I just am blown away how it hasn't come up as an issue. Number 2, we talked about this a little, but debt. We are headed down the road of every other major great country where debt will overtake us. And if we don't get serious about our spending, we're going to have big problems. And no one's being asked about it. Maybe a little domestic spending here or there, but we have serious problems. And I don't think either candidate is paying attention to it enough. But then third, and this kind of I'm sort of interested. I wish we had time to get into this. But this idea of, like, in Virginia, schools were a big issue. Parents were a big issue last cycle when Glenn Youngkin won. And I kind of started to think about this. You got this Jonathan Haidt book out about kids and social media. We've seen now a lot of schools ban social media, ban phones in school. And I thought to myself, this is an area where Trump in particular could really do well with suburban women and talking about phones in school, social media, the impact on this generation. Anyway, that's my 2 cents because I think there's something there. I think Glenn Youngkin tapped in on it last time. I think you're seeing more and more schools go in that direction. And why not ride the wave of something? They keep talking about this gender gap. I know from the parents that I interact with, this is a major issue for every parent who's out there right now. And if the federal government got in and said, we are not going to, I don't know what the answer is, but I think there's a big thing.
And Instagram just announced new restrictions on minor accounts.
On teens, right? Ride the wave, baby. All right. I want to, we always end Thursdays with winners and losers. Sarah, I'll start with you. Just give me your winner and your loser for the week.
Yeah, my winner are the Haitian migrants here under temporary protected status. They're getting free money, free benefits, free housing, and of course, my losers are the cats for obvious reasons.
The cats, because they're getting eaten.
Yeah.
You don't care about the dogs?
Save the cats. Vote Trump 2024. I mean, I have equal sympathy for the dogs. Sean. But the cats are easier to grab.
But I think we could all agree that we hate Canadian geese, and as far as I'm concerned, go for it.
They're mean.
Wow.
I'm okay with it.
Wow. All right. Okay, Larry. Wow, that's an awkward move on. Who do you have as a winner and a loser this week?
They go hand in hand. I'll start with the losers. The losers are the conventional wisdom, old dinosaur media analysts who last week assured everybody that Kamala Harris knocked it out of the park. She was the hands down winner, just wiped the stage with Donald Trump. And not only has that narrative shifted now because of the 3-on-1 aspect and ABC News's debacle and the fake fact checking and the lack of fact checking of Kamala Harris. But if you look at the polls, Donald Trump has actually gotten to himself into a better place after the debate. All of that inside the beltway conventional wisdom analysis is wrong. It always is wrong, and it's been wrong about Donald Trump going all the way back to 2016.
All right, how about
that brings us to the winners.
Winner?
And the winners are us. You see, each of us represent an alternative new media streaming analysis political show whose numbers are growing because people are tuning out from ABC and CNN and all the old places they used to get analysis. And our profiles are growing. And each of us, we looked at that debate a very different way and gave nuanced, totally more intelligent analysis. We're the winners. They're the losers.
You're the Amber. Who do you have as your winner and loser, real quick? Sorry.
The winners are everyone in Washington, D.C., because the new season of Love is Blind, based in D.C., is coming out in the next couple of weeks. We got the official trailer today and all of the cast members' names and occupations. And we are having a field day on Instagram finding out who these people are. And the loser is Hillary Clinton, who crawled out of her woods with her Chardonnay to do a book tour and immediately called for the censorship of Americans who spread quote unquote misinformation.
First of all, I'm going to have to Google this now. Love is Blind. Okay. Number two, I think it's funny that if you hadn't just said that, I didn't know that Hillary Clinton had a new book. That tells you where she is.
See, loser.
Okay. My winner is illegal immigration. I think that because of what's going on in Springfield, they are bringing more attention to the plight that's happening in communities, not just there, but around the country, the impact that it's having, the strain it's putting on the resources. And the loser, as we said earlier, I think is Taylor Swift. She chose to wade into something, and she is now reaping I think the rewards.
Oh, God.
All right.
Rest in peace your mentions, because the Swifties are going to come after you.
Come at me. Great. You know what? I'm in. I'm in.
Thinking.
All right. Thank you guys for being here. I always love the discussion. Thanks for everyone who tuned in to Road to 270 yesterday. Continue to share that. I've been so excited about how many of you have done that. I love the detail that we put into that. Love to get your feedback on that. Tomorrow, Glenn Beck is going to be here. He'll weigh in on a lot, including independent media, as Larry just brought up. James Blair, political director of the Trump campaign, is here next week. We've got a big, big week lined up for you. That's why you got to hit the notification button and subscribe on all platforms, because you never know if we might get canceled. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show. Have a great one. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.